Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Exactly 2 years ago, on the morning of October 7th, sirens blared across Israel, warning of rockets raining down on Tel Aviv and nearby cities. I still remember those piercing alarms and the rush to shelters. That day, Hamas terrorists broke through the Gaza border, carried out a brutal attack by air, land, and sea, killing around 1,200 people, including Polish citizens. 2 weeks later, Israel launched its military offensive in Gaza, which is still ongoing. And now, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, over 60,000 Palestinians have been killed, and a peace deal is yet to be made. Now, to discuss where this conflict stands today and where does Poland stand on it, joining me in studio to discuss is Maciej Kozłowski, former Polish ambassador to Israel. Mr. Ambassador, I'm so happy to have you here with us in studio this morning.
Good morning.
Now, before we get into October 7 per se, I want to ask you about the recent news coming out that the Polish nationals who were detained by Israel for being part of the Gaza Sumut flotilla are now in Athens after being released. What more can you tell us on their condition, on how the situation is, and on Poland's response to that?
Well, happily it ended without any injuries or without any trouble, I would say. But this flotilla was, I would say, ill-timed. The problem is that the real peace talks are starting in Sharm el-Sheikh today, and it seems for the first time in these 2 years that there's a real chance that this time at least the ceasefire will be achieved.
What role, though, if I just ask you about them, what role did Poland's diplomatic or consular services play in the release of the Polish activists that were released from Israeli detention?
That I don't know, because, you know, the talks were obviously not public, but I think that Israel wanted to sort of deport these people as soon as possible. That for Israel it was a very, I would say, not very easy things to do. At once they couldn't let them get into Gaza. On the other hand, they didn't want the international scandal. So it was done contrary to the incident 7 years ago, also with the Turkish ship, without, I would say, problems. That means no one was injured, no one was harassed. So it ended, I would say, in a normal way.
Let me ask you this. I mean, you just said, you know, that Israel would not have let them in to Gaza. I mean, these activists that are getting on these flotillas and traveling there by sea, I believe they assume that they know the Israeli Navy will intercept the flotillas, will stop them and won't get them in. Do you think that that it's any other possible flotilla mission is going to be successful in being able to deliver this human aid? Why, you know, and has this, do you think, has this really helped the citizens in Gaza and the Palestinians, the fact that these activists are trying and attempting to do this?
Well, first of all, this humanitarian aid they had on this yacht was a drop in the bucket. And for 2 million people, I don't know, 20 or 30 small boats, it's nothing. So it was more a PR activity, which this activist wanted to sort of show that the world is concerned, and some say they wanted to do publicity for themselves. So that is a very controversial move, because the real activities against the war are in Israel. And if you would ask me for my personal opinion, I would say that they would be doing much more for the peace of Gaza if they joined the demonstration within Israel against the war, which hundreds of thousands of Israelis doing for the last 2 years.
I've attended those protests. I was covering the entire conflict on October 7 and beyond when all that happened. But let me ask you this: given Poland's close ties, right, like you're saying, to Israel, of course, its EU membership, how is Warsaw navigating its diplomatic position on this conflict?
Well, Poland traditionally was a country supporting Israel. Since we renewed relations in 1990, the relations between Poland and Israel were very close. We recognized the state of Palestine during communist times, so that was a done deal. We didn't have to rush now and decide now about it. So we were standing as majority of the so-called Western world, if such a thing still exists, that we are for the two-state solution. We think that Israel should be safe, and at the same time there should be a safe and prosperous Palestinian state. The recent developments, political developments in Israel changed this situation, because the government of Prime Minister Netanyahu refused to recognize or work towards building of Palestinian state. So our support for Israel, of course, is not as strong as it used to be, because of this right-wing government, which goes against what the world community demands from Israel.
And you did mention in the beginning that peace talks will begin prospective peace talks, if that's what I can call, will begin today in Sharm el-Sheikh. What can we expect from these talks that have been largely ongoing for the past 2 years now? Are we finally going to see a conflict resolution here?
We'll see, of course. As saying in Israel goes, the prophecy ended with the end of the second shrine in Israel's second temple. But both President Trump and Arab states put a lot of effort and I would say spent a lot of political currency for this time to succeed. And I think, that's my prophecy, that the first stage of this agreement, that means ceasefire and release of this still probably 20 living Israeli hostages, will be done, which President Trump will announce as an enormous victory, which will be these poor people spent 2 years in the terrible conditions, and on the other hand, every day tens of Palestinians being killed. So ending of killing and release of these hostages will be a great success. What will happen next, no one knows, because these two first stages are easy. That's quite, from the technical point, is quite easy. The problem is who will govern Gaza, how it will be governed, who will rebuild it, what will be the Israeli position towards building of Palestinian states, which now is on the agenda. Hamas, which made terrible things, from their point of view, succeeded in that way that the problem of Palestinian state is again on the world agenda. The Arab states cannot deal with Israel as it did during the previous Trump term, without solving the problem of Palestinian state. And probably that will be the major stumbling block.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador Maciej Kozłowski, former Polish ambassador to Israel, for all your insight with us here this morning on World Talks. And thank you for being with us here on World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.